Daf Tes Zayin Amid Beis, the bottom two lines. So we mentioned a pasuk before about the burial of Chizkiah. So now that we mentioned that, we're going to continue talking about that. Covered also loy b'moisai, that they made a covered for Chizkiah upon his death. They made a covered for him by his after his death. So what was the covered that Klal Yisrael did for Chizkiah? So the Gemara says, Melamed she'yeshiva yeshiva al kivroi. They put a yeshiva on his kever. They had a yeshiva learning by his kever. Which, by the way, this is a makar. In general, you're not allowed to have your tzitzis out by a kever because it's loy glarash charif iseyu, that it's considered a bizayon because it's like you're showing off that what we can do and they can't. So how are we saying Tehillim? You go to kever tzaddik, you say Tehillim, they daven kever rachel, they have minyanim. So how is this mutter? So this is the makar. They had a yeshiva on his kever. So the Rishonim over here already deal with the fact that why is allowed. So some say, if it's to show his covet, meaning if it's for the covet and nifter, then it's allowed. Meaning if you're just saying look, I can learn Torah. If you're just sitting and learning Daf Yomi by a kever, it's not allowed. But if you're doing it covet and nifter for his chus, so that's what they did. It was to show the covet of Chizkiah that he has a yeshiva after him. Then it's allowed. There's other Rishayim's Turutzim, but this is the Yisuk. Rav Nosson v'Rabbanon. How long did this yeshiva last? Chadam or Shloisha. One say that it lasted 3 days. Chadam or Shiva. One said they did it for the Shiva. And some say they did it for the Shloishim. Okay. Taner Rabbanon. Covered oisle b'moisei. Another pshat about this cover that they did. Zeh Chizkiah melech Yehuda. This is referring to Chizkiah. Sheyatzu lefanu shloishim v'shisha alfei elef chalutze kesef. That 36,000 men went out with bearing their shoulders. So I mentioned this a couple weeks ago on a Shabbos that there's a minig by Chasidim. It's a Chassidish minig that the chassan, when he walks down the chuppah, by the chuppah, he doesn't have one arm in the kapata, or in the bekisha, or in the kittel, whatever they're wearing. So what's the pshat for this? The pshat is, it's a shaila. It's hard to find the explanation for the minig, to be honest with you. It's not very mefurish. But Pashas has to do with this, that it's a sign of Avelis, and a sign of Avelis, they would bare their shoulder. So they literally would have their shoulder exposed. So therefore, they don't. The chassan doesn't put his shoulder in. Again, the reason why it's a little bit strange is because we're not makbid about this by an actual avelis, let alone to be makbid by chuppah, which is to think about avelis. But anyway, the point is the cover for Chizkiah is that 36,000 men bared their shoulder by the funeral. So the Gemara says. Rabbi Yehuda, that's Rabbi Yehuda Shita. Amalei Rav Nechemya, halay lefnei Achav asukim. They did that before every king of Klal Yisrael, even Achav, who's a Rasha. So that can't be the cover they did for Chizkiah. Every king that's what they did. That was the part of the process. Ella shenichu sefer Torah mitasa. Rather, they put a sefer Torah on the coffin. V'amru kayim zeh masher kasav b'zeh. That he was mekayim what's written in the Torah. Okay, that was the big covet that they did for Chizkiah. So the Gemara says, I thought they did this for every big Rav. In the times of the Gemara, they would take a sefer Torah and say, "Kayim zeh masher kasav zeh." So what's the big covet for Chizkiah? So the answer is, "Afukim afkina anuchim lemenachin." They would take out a sefer Torah by the kvarim, by the burial, by the funeral of a big tzaddik. They would take out a sefer Torah as symbolically to say, "Kayim zeh masher kasav," but they never put it on the coffin. To put it on the coffin, that was exclusive for Chizkiah. So the Gemara is Iba Yisema, another pshat, "Anuchi nami manchinan," or really no, they put it on the coffin of every big tzaddik. But kayim le'amina, they don't say the words kayim zeh masher kasav zeh. To say that word, to explicitly say that this person was mekayim in the Torah, that they did exclusively for Chizkiah. The Gemara continues. I wanted to ask Rav Yechon in the Shaila of what cover they did for Chizkiah. But he was on his way to the bathroom, so obviously he didn't answer until he left the bathroom. When he came out, he explained it to me, but he still first washed his hands, monach tefillin, and then he put on his tefillin and mevarach and he mebrach on the tefillin. So a couple of things you learn from this. First of all, he didn't want to answer until he was wearing tefillin. Rabbi Yechon wore tefillin all day, so he didn't want to answer until he had tefillin. Also shows that right after the bathroom, he'd wash his hands, showing the netilas time after the bathroom, and also that he would make a bracha on the tefillin, because if you go to the bathroom, you have to make a bracha on tefillin. Okay, and then he explained afilu kayim amrina, that he says no. Even nowadays, by a big tzaddik, they'll take out a sefer Torah, they'll put it down, they'll even say kayim. But limud lo yamrinam, but they won't say that he taught what was in the Torah. By Chizkiah, they didn't just say that he learned and it was mekayim Torah, but he taught Torah. Teaching Torah is the highest madreg. So the problem is right now it seems that like keeping the Torah is one thing that you do even maybe, but teaching Torah, that's the highest metric. The problem is Amar God Lima Torah Shalim Mevede Maisa. Now Lima Torah, the whole point of learning Torah is to get to Kiyam Maisa, is to get to keeping Torah, which means keeping Torah is the highest madrega. So how are you saying that keeping the Torah, that teaching Torah is the highest? I thought keeping Torah is the highest. The answer is no. Like Kasha Halamim or Halagmure. No. When it comes to learning Torah is in order to keep the Torah. But keeping the Torah is in order to teach Torah. Teaching Torah is the highest madrega. So there's learning Torah that's not as high as keeping. Teaching is the highest madrega. That's the Gemara saying. Okay. What does it mean? It says in the pasuk in Yeshaya, Ashreichem zoyrei al kol mayim. Praiseworthy those that plant, that put in seeds by the water. Mishalchei regel hashar v'chamor, and they send the feet of the regel hashar v'chamor. So what does this mean? It means kol ha'osek b'torah gemilas chasadim. It means if you're osek in Torah gemilas chesed, zoicha anachal shnei shvatim, you'll be zoicha to inherit 2 shvatim. Okay, so how do you see this in the pasuk? So I'll just read the pasuk again. It's Ashreichem kol zorei al Ashreichem zorei al komayim. Zorei al komayim we're going to prove is Torah and Chesed. So Ashreichem Torah and Chesed. Min shalchei regel hashar v'chamar. You'll be zoicha to inherit the 2 shvatim that are symbolized by shar v'chamar. That's what the Gemara is going to do. Okay, let's see it inside. The Gemara says, Shenemar Ashreichem zorei. Praiseworthy are those that plant. Ein zriya el tzedakah. The word zriya means tzedakah. So praiseworthy is someone who does tzedakah. Shenamar zir l'chem tzedakah v'kitzuli v'chesed. Now, so Asher is zirei. Zirei is tzedakah. Al kol mayim. Ein mayim el Torah. Shenamar hay kol tzav l'chamayim. So the pasuk is saying Ashreichem, those that do chesed, tzedakah, and Torah. V'zoicha, because then you'll be mishalchei regel hashar v'chamar. Zoicha l'nachal shei shvatim. You'll be zoicha to get the reward of 2 shvatim. What are the rewards? Zoicha l'bilaka Yosef. You'll get glory like Yosef. D'chsev ben Peiras Yosef ben Oisad alei shur. The Yosef is compared to an ox. I'm sorry. Yeah, shur is technically means a wall, but if you read a shar, yeah. So Yosef is described as an ox. So the point is, so when it says Meshachar Ashar, that's referring to Yosef. So you get the bracha of Yosef. Mechamar is Zeicha Nachas Yisachar. You'll get wealth like Yisachar. The Chsiv Yisachar Chamar Goyrem. Okay, this the Amri, and some say a different shot. Oivav Neufel of Ki Yosef. It means that if you do Chesed and Torah, then your enemies will fall before you like Yosef. The Chsiv Behem Amimi Nagach Yachdav Afsei Aretz. V'Zeich Lebina Ki Yisachar. And you'll say have bina like Yisachar. You'll say Menei Yisachar Yoidei Bina Leitim Ladas Mayazal Yisrael. So you said the word bina regarding Yisachar. Hadranolach Araba Obis. Okay, let's go weiter. So, what we're going to be dealing with today's daf a little bit. Chair squeaky. What we're dealing with today's daf is the concept that regel is normally you pay 100%, right? The only thing that pays 50% is Karen the first 3 times. Regel you pay 100%. Now regel is defined by just as you're walking. But we mentioned previously, I think in Daf Dalid, and this is what we're going to deal with a little more, there's a concept called Chatzi Nezek Tzreiris, which means that if while the animal's walking, it shoots out a pebble from its feet and breaks something, so it's breaking something sort of indirectly, where it's not the item. In addition to that, it would be like if the animal has like a chain around its leg and it flings the chain and the chain breaks something. That's Chatzi Nezek Tzreiris. That is Halacha Moshe Messina, you only pay 50%. It's mammon, but it's halacha mishna, you only pay 50%. That's what we're dealing with in today's daf. So the Mishnah says like this: Keitzad haregel muedes l'shaber b'derech hilucha. What's an example of regel? So it's muedes l'shaber b'derech hilucha. It means that it breaks things while it's walking. It steps on a bottle, it breaks stuff, knocks things over. Fine. Ha-behema muedes l'halach kedarga, and a behema is mued for feet. So no, it's a little funny. This line is completely extra. It's Keitzad haregel muedes l'shaber b'derech hilucha. Ha-behema muedes l'halach kedarga. So it's sort of repeating itself. The Gemara is going to analyze what are we learning from this line. The line, basically, the Mishnah is repeating itself. Regel and behema. Behema is regel, so it's repeating itself. The Gemara is going to analyze what's the Indian of that. L'shaber haisim avuetes. If it kicks, now kicks is keren, right? Kicking is attacking and it's abnormal, so that's keren. Or while it's walking, it shoots out pebbles. Vishavras akelim mishalim chatzi nezek. You pay chatzi nezek. Now these two are not for the same reason. The first reason because it's keren. The second one because of chatzi nezek tsureiris, but it's regel. You understand? So the first one, when it kicks, that's keren, so that you pay 50% because it's a tam. The second line, which is shooting the pebbles, that's regel, but it's chatzi nezek tsureiris, which is halacha meshmisin, that you also pay 50%. So you both pay 50%, but they're two different avos. Dars ala kli v'shavraso. If let's say you stepped on a kli and you broke it, v'nafal ala kli v'shavro, and then the item that you broke shot out. So you step on a piece of glass. The animal steps on a glass, breaks the glass, and then one of the pieces of glass shatters out and shoots out and breaks another glass. Ala rishon mishalim nezek shalim. On the first one you pay nezek shalim because it's regel. Balachor mishalim chatzi nezek, and the second one you pay chatzi nezek because it's tzoros. Hatarnegoylin muadin lahalik kedarkon ulashaber. Again, chickens when they're hopping and they're walking, that's regel. They break stuff, you have to pay. Haya dalil kosher baraglav. Let's say they have something tied to its feet, like a string tied to its feet, a wire, and while it's walking, the wire is knocking over stuff. So that's chatzi nezek tzoros. Oisha haya mahades umeshabres akelim, or it's like hopping, and it breaks the kli, mishalim chatzi nezek. Now, if you look at Rashi, the delil hainu tzroiris, da di aduye hidus nami kunche hidus at tzroiris shavris kli. And the last case where it's hopping and it breaks and it says you only pay 50%, that's where it jumps, hits a rock, and the rock flies. It's all just examples of chazin. And do not complain of what's the chiddush, because I'm liking this. So there's a lot. Today's daf is very pleasant, and we're not going to ask kashas. So the Mishnah had like this. What we're going to focus on is, before you turn the page, look at the first line of the Mishnah again. Keitzad haregel muedis l'shaber b'derech ilucha. What's an example of regel? Habahema muedis lahalak kedarek l'shaber. A behema is a mued for a regel. So it says regel and it says behema, but it's the same thing. It's just repeating itself. It's that when an animal walks and it breaks stuff, it's regel. So what is the chiddush? Why does the Mishnah say that second line? It says regel and it says behema. It's the same thing. So the Gemara says kasha. Amar Ravina l'Rava hainu regel hainu behema. What is the chiddush of the second line of behema? So Amar leitana avo suktani told us. Oh, the first one is an av, which is regel, and the second is the tolda, which we've had, right? Av is the regel, and the second one, the tolda, is, let's say it's walking and its belly knocks over something, or its its tail whips something, or its saddle to whip something. So it says regel, which is the av, and then it goes to the tolda. Makes a lot of sense. Here's the problem. The next Mishnah, I'll say it outside and we'll say it inside. The next Mishnah lists the exact same thing. Keitzad hashein muedas l'sarachaloi, habehem muedas. The exact same thing by Shane, but by Shane, it's only describing the Av. You see, Shane's Av is eating. Shane's Tolda is like scratching its back, right? Shane is pleasure. So it's like scratching its back and it knocks something over. That Mishnah is only talking about Avos. It doesn't describe any other case, and it says the same two things. So our Mishnah, which is a little more ambiguous, we said, well, it starts off with the Av, and then it says the Tolda, because it says Lahaloch. Lahaloch can be, it knocks it with its belly. So it could be it's Av and then Tolda, but the next Mishnah says the exact same flow, but it's only talking about Av. So how do you explain the next Mishnah? You can't. This answer doesn't work for the next Mishnah. So the Gemara says, "My Avos." The Gemara says, "Elamayata Seifa." The next Mishnah says, "Hashein muedes, habehema muedes." My Avos, my Tolda Sika, and over there it's not describing a Tolda. I mean, there are Toldas of Hashein, but the Mishnah does not talk about a Tolda at all. So how do you explain the next Mishnah? This is Ravina talking to Rava. So Rava gave a joke. Rava's joke to him was, I explained one Mishnah, you explain one Mishnah. I explained one, you explain one. It was like a joke. I don't know. So, time am I, but what's the real pshat? What's the pshat? It's like our Mishnah says regel and behema, so we said Av and Tolda. The next Mishnah says Shein and behema, that can't be Av and Tolda. So what's the next Mishnah? Amar Ravashi, Tana Shein de Chayok, Tana Shein de Behema. The next Mishnah is both talking about Shein. So it says Shein and Behema is Shein and Shein. Why do you need both? One is the Shein of a Behema, and one is the Shein of a Chaya. Meaning that if I own a Chaya, I own a deer, and the deer just eats some people's vegetation, I have to pay. What's the chiddush in that? So the Gemara says, because the pasuk says when it describes Shein, it's describing a behema. The context of the pasuk is a shar. So because the pasuk is describing a behema, you might think Behema in chaya la, you might think that the pasuk is exempting you from the shein of a chaya, kamash malon. The chaya b'chlal behema. Okay. Now here's the problem. So our Mishnah says regel behema, so it's av and tolda. The next Mishnah says shein and behema. It's shein de chaya, shein de behema. So shein of chaya, shein of behema. Wouldn't it make more sense that you would put shein of behema first? Again, the next Mishnah says ezu shein, ezu behema. So we said shein is chaya, behema is shein of behema. Wouldn't we start off with behema because that's like the ikr pasuk? Why would we start off with chaya? So the Gemara says, shouldn't we put shein of behema first? The answer is hi da'asal midrasha chavivale. We have this a couple times that when a Tana makes a drasha that's chaviv to him, so you actually put that before the pasuk. So the next Mishnah says shein of chaya, because that was a figured out from a pasuk, and then shein of behema, which is clear. So wait a minute. So if you're going to go that first, if you're going to go like with drashas first, our Mishnah was av and tolda. Then it was chaya, then behema. Shouldn't our Mishnah be tolda then av? Like if you're gonna sort of mix it up, the Gemara says ihachi reisha nami listen ahid like siva bereisha. So if you're gonna go with chidushim first, then put the tolda first because the tolda is not mafurish in the pasuk. The answer is like this. Hachi hasha no. Hasam edi vedi avis nenu hachdaisel midrasha chavivale. Over there, shein of a behem and shein of chaya are both the same. They're both avos, right? It's just one's based on a drasha and one's a clear pasuk. So because they're both the same level of category, the order doesn't really matter as much. So we'll put the drasha first. Over here you have an av and a tolda. You never put a tolda before the av. You never do that. So when they're both avos, and just one's an av from a clear pasuk, one's an av based on a drasha. Okay, shine. So then you could put. But when one's av and one's a tolda, you don't put the av before the tolda. You don't put the tolda before the av. So our mission is av and then tolda. Over there, it's av chaya drasha av behema pasuk, because at least they're both avos. But over here is an av and a tolda. You don't put a tolda before an av. So that's the flow of the pasuk.
What's bothering me more, the fact that it's a double lashon?
Yeah, it's a completely unnecessary line.
Otherwise, it doesn't.
It's not just a double lashon; it's a completely unnecessary line.
So
Yeah,
saying that's the chayim behema.
correct. Okay, or Iba Yisem, another answer. Another answer of why the Mishnah says av and then tolda is because this Mishnah starts up with the word regel. The last Mishnah described, not the last Mishnah, but the Mishnah before last described haregel muedas. We had in Daf Tesvav Amid Beis, the Mishnah said haregel muedas. So therefore, today's Mishnah, the question was, why are we putting av, regel, and then tolda first? Put the tolda in the av. The answer is just the flow. The two Mishnayos ago, it said the word regel. So once we said regel, let's talk about regel, and then we go to toldas. You understand? It's just, stylistically. Okay, fine. All right. Tan Rabbanan, behema muedas lahalach kedarka. A behema is a mued when he's walking, ulashaver. This is regel. Keita, what's an example? Behema shenichnas l'chatzar nizik. Again, regel only applies in the domain of the damagee. So my animal breaks into your backyard, vehezika begufa, and it damages with its body while it's walking, derech hilucha, or besaira derech hilucha, or with its hair while it's walking, or beukif shaleha, or with its ukif, with its saddle, ubeshlif shaleha, and its yoke, the prumya shebepia, ubezug shekitzavara. Okay, v'chamar b'masay b'shalom nezek shalom. Okay, good. Sumchas aimer tsurayris. Okay, so basically what we're going to find out is Sumchas does not believe in Chatzi Nezek Tsurayris. He doesn't have that Messiah of Halacha Mashma Sinai. He doesn't believe in it. He thinks that you pay full. He doesn't believe in it. Look at Sumchas says. Sumchas aimer tsurayris, which is by the way a little interesting because it sounds like he's like addressing something that was already addressed. He's like, tsurayris, I think you pay full. It's like we haven't mentioned tsurayris yet in this brisa, but we'll analyze it in a second. Tsurayris v'chazir. So if you have tsurayris, which is again shooting pebbles out of the animal's foot, it steps on a pebble and then it flies. Or a chazer, shahaya noiver ba'ashba v'hizik, a chazer that's thrashing around in the garbage and he breaks something. Now, at this point, we assume it just means that like there's something near the garbage that he just hits his head. The problem is then like that's incredibly obvious. Sumchus doesn't have to tell me that. So the Gemara is eventually going to say it means that a chazer is in the garbage. I don't have to do that like that. And he hits his head, and he hits something, and the garbage shoots out and breaks something. So it's tsuris. It's just another example of tsuris. It's just a tsuris with chazer. So the point is, Sumchus is saying tsuris or chazer tsuris. Yeah, what's the halacha? Mishalim nezek shalim. Mishalim nezek shalim. Now, before we address the element, I mentioned that the case of chazer was tsuris, but at first glance, it just sounds like the chazer broke something. So the Gemara says, hizik pshita. Okay, if the chazer breaks something, why would I think that a chazer is different than any other animal? Ela'ema hit is v'hizik. It means the chazer hit something, and that flew out of the garbage, and then broke. Mishalim nezek shalim. So now, here's the issue. The first part of the brisa didn't mention tsuris at all. And all of a sudden, Sumcha says, tsuris, pay nezek shalim. It's like, it sounds like he was addressing like a discussion. The Gemara says, "Tsuris man de kashmaya." Who mentioned tsuris? Chasuri mechsav achizari. The word's missing. This is how you're supposed to read it. Tsuris kior chayu chatzi nezek. The Tana Kamma said that tsuris is chatzi nezek. V'chazir shayin avibasha hit is mishalim chatzi nezek, and tsuris of a chazir is also chatzi nezek. Sumchus then says, no, tsuris v'chazir shayin avibasha hit is mishalim nezek shalom. Sumchus says, I don't believe in this. It's tsuris chatzi nezek thing. I think it's nezek shalom. Okay. Tana Rabbanan. Tana Goylin shayu mafrichin memakom memakom. You have chickens that are jumping from place to place. V'shavru kelim b'kanfeim, and they knock over something with their wings. So mishalim nezek shalim. That's regel. But beruach shebekanfeim. Let's say they don't actually knock something over with their wings. Their wind of their wings knocks something over. That's chatzi nezek tsuris. Chatzi nezek tsuris is basically your koyach breaking something. It's not with the body. It's that the animal does something which causes a reaction to break something. So the chicken flaps its wings and blows over a glass and it breaks. It's chatzi nezek tsuris. The halacha is mishalim chatzi nezek. Sumchus, again, Lishita says Sumchus doesn't believe in chatzi nezek. He says nezek shalim. Another example, Tani Idach. Tani Gadashay Hadsin al Gabi Isa al Gabi Paris. You have chickens that are hopping on dough or on food. The shuk. You go to the shuk in Eretz Yisrael, you just see pigeons all over the place. It doesn't bother you when you're eating it. Like over here, if a store gets a bee, I was like, I won't go in. But over there, it's like the guy's taking nuts, and it's literally, I just saw a cat that he shushed away, and you're like, it's fine. So you have a pigeon that's hopping. The birds are hopping on dough and on food, and they ruin the food. They ruin the dough. So the halacha is mishalim nezek shalim. You have to pay nezek shalim. But helu offeroit tsuris. Let's say the bird flapped its wings and covered it with dirt. So they didn't do it biyadayim. They did it. That's chatzi nezek tsuris. Mishalim chatzi nezek. Sumchus aimer nezek shalim. Again, same machlekes. Tani yidach, third machlekes. Tarnagol shayim afriach makom makom. You have a chicken hopping. V'yotzes aruch mitachas kanafeha. V'shivra esakelim. Mishalim chatzi nezek. Mamash the same thing. Stomach rabbanon. That's a stomach like the rabbanon of chatzi nezek tsuris. Amar Rava. Now the Gemara is going to speak out. Right now, again, we know chatzi nezek tsuris alach mashmasina because we've been doing this masechta till now. But if you don't, it's actually very strange because b'manushach, right? The animal flaps its wings and knocks something over. That's called koichai. If you believe koichai is attributed to his actions, you should pay nezek shalim. If you don't believe in it, then you should pay nothing. Well, Sumchus believes that it's nezek shalim. Makes a lot of sense. What's the pshat of chatzi nezek? So the answer is going to be it's halach mishmasina, but we don't know that yet. So Amar Rava, Bishlem is Sumchus kesaver koichai kegufay dami. I understand Sumchus. He feels koichai is gufay, therefore you have to pay. Elo Rabbanon, ikegufay dami kulin nezek b'lisham. If lav kegufay chatzi nezek namli l'sham. Either it's all or nothing. What's the chatzi nezek coming from? So the Gemara says Hadam Rava lo'elam kegufay dami. Really, chatzi nezek tsuris. Really, it's kegufay. You should pay 100%. The chazan is halacha mishmasina. It's halacha mishmasina. Me'ez tam shiyah. Halacha mishmasina. You don't have to pay. The Gemara continues. Amar Rava. Now here's the question: what's a rule? Now I think it's a simple rule. How do I know whether it's regel or chatzi nezek tsuris? So the simple rule is basically: did you do it biyadayim? If you did it biyadayim or with your body weight, then it's nezek shalim. If it's you threw a baseball and you broke it, then it's chatzi nezek tsuris. So Rava says basically the same rule. Rava, kol shebezav tame. Anytime if a zav were to come contact, an animal. If an animal throws a baseball. No, I actually think that would be chatzi nezek tsuris. No, I mean I can't imagine that's not goofy.
If an animal throws a baseball, yeah, sure.
I'm sure there's some animal that they trained.
Monkey.
Yeah. Rava, Kol Shabazav. And by the way, no, it's like it broke his window. He's like, a monkey broke my window. Anyway, I'll tell you afterwards. Kol Shabazav Tame. Anyway, so the Gemara says like this. So here's the rule. Rava says, anytime if I was a zav, again, a zav is someone who's tame. A zav contributes tuma by contact or by putting his body weight without contact, right? If a zav, let's say he's sitting on, there's a cushion, there's like five cushions on the chair. He sits, all the cushions are tummy because his body weight is on top of it. Any contact that a zav would transmit tuma, an animal would pay nezek shalom. But any contact that a zav does not transmit tuma, i.e. throwing something, right? If a zav takes a baseball and throws it at something and knocks it over, that second item is not tame because it didn't come in contact with him. That's chatzi nezek saris. Okay, it's a pretty simple rule. I could have understood the rule without the whole zav thing, but that's okay. If you want to know, that's the barometer. Amar Rava, kol shebezav tamei b'nizakin misham nezek shalim. Kol shebezav tahar mizakin misham chatzi nezek. Okay. So the Gemara says, Rava tzraris as lashmina. What's the chiddush of Rava? Like, I know this. There's a concept of chazin tzraris. What's the chiddush? Rava agala mesheches b'karan kamash malan. Rava is adding one case, and that is the halacha is if let's say a person is sitting on a wagon, right, and he's riding on the wagon, and under the wheel of the wagon there's a cushion. Under the wheel, it runs over a cushion. The halacha is the cushion is tameh, because the person's body weight for that moment is on it. Now, is it touching it? It's not even, it's very disconnected, but that's the halacha. So the chiddush would be, if an animal pulls a wagon and breaks a glass, that's not chatzi nezek tzoros, that is regel. The same way, if the zav is on the wagon and he rolls over the cushion, that's tameh. So too over here, if the animal pulls a wagon and the wagon breaks a glass, rolls over the glass and breaks it, that is not chatzi nezek tzoros, that is nezek shalom. Again, I could have seen it being chatzi nezek tzoros. It's in between case. That's what Rava wanted to add. That's what Rava wanted to add. That's not chatzi nezek tzoros, that is nezek shalom. The Gemara continues. Okay. So the point is, Rav is adding that if an animal drags a wagon and breaks something, it's nezek shalom. Tanya Gavasi the Rabbi. I have a brayso that backs it up. What does the brayso say? Behema wedis l'shava b'derech hilucha. What are examples of regel? Behema shenichas l'chatzar nizek v'hezika begufa. Right, knocks over something with its body. Derech hilucha. B'sayir dechlu with its hair. B'ukav shaleo. B'shlif shaleo. Prom yeshev pia zug shazar. Exactly the same thing. Chamar shebemasei. V'agala meisheches b'karoin. Or it pulls a wagon and knocks something over. Mishalom nezek shalom. Easy peasy. Tanu Rabbanon. Tanu goyim shei mechatetin b'chavel deli. That's interesting. So you have a pail, you have a glass bowl. It's held up by a string. The chickens peck on the string, break the string, and the glass breaks. So is that chatzi nezek tzoros or is that nezek shalom? So the Gemara says, that's not chatzi nezek tzoros. That is a direct reaction to their body, and that is regel. Okay, meaning although they didn't break it biyadayim, they basically dropped it. That's basically what they did. They dropped it. They caused it directly to break. So Tanra Boy Rava had a kasha. Darsa elakli v'loy shevrasoi v'nizgalgal magamacha v'nishbar. Okay, so you have like this. Picture this. You have a hill and you have a wall. So the hill goes directly into a wall. There's an ox on top, and the ox knocks over a glass, kicks the glass does not break, but it rolls straight into and breaks. So the question is, so if he would break it right away, that's for sure regel. But over here, he hit it, and then it rolled down, and then it broke further away. So do you say the fact that it broke further away is chatzi nezek tzoros? You say no. I mean, when he hit it, it's inevitable. So that's the question. That's Rava's kasha. So, do we go by his original action, which is gufay, or do you go by when it broke, which is tzoros? So, tifshat le'midarabba. So the question is, what is Rabbi's question? It's pretty obvious. How so? Of Rabba. Da'amar Rabba, zara kli merosh hagag ubo acher v'shavrei b'mekel, potter. Da'amir li'manu tvira tavar. A guy takes a glass bowl. You take your friend's glass bowl and you throw it off a roof. while it's in midair, right before it lands, a guy takes a baseball bat and breaks it. What's the halacha? The guy with the baseball bat is not obligated at all. Why? Because it was broken anyway. And if he didn't hit it, it would break 2 seconds later. He broke a broken glass. So what do you see? You see that it was a dead man walking. So to over here, when the animal pushed it down, it was going down towards the hill. The second he pushed it down, it's a dead man walking. It's already a broken kli. Even before it's broken, it's a broken kli. So it's not chatzin as it's gufay. So why is Rava unclear? It's a pretty obvious answer based on Rabba. The answer is l'Rabba pshita l'Rava miboile. You're right. To Rabba, it's simple that it would be gufay. Rava was unclear. All right, we'll stop here. Pick it up tomorrow.